Good evening, my friends. This is the Grim Flayer. I hope you're doing very well tonight. And I am an idiot because I made a mistake. I'm going to have to correct it. It's totally fine. But I did a sound check before I started this whole spiel, the deck tech, which I've already done once. And the sound sounded fine, but then I forgot to hit record again. So, the deck tech I'm redoing, and round one of the league that you're about to see, I will have to redo as a replay as well. Everything else is good, because in between round one and round two, I checked to see if I was recording. Sadly, I was not. And that's unfortunate, because I need to redo that now, and also because I think round one would have been pretty good live content, but we'll never know. And you know, the upside here, the upshot, is that our league is pretty long that you're about to see, so maybe we can benefit from tightening up the time on round one and keeping it under 3 hours, right? Which otherwise maybe it would have threatened to go over. I'm not certain. Anyway, this is a donation league for a wonderful Patreon supporter. A credit to the community. A guy named Chris. Thank you so much, Chris, for your support. Really appreciate it, my friend. And also for the wondrous idea to go back to our roots and play some good old-fashioned rock. So thanks again to Chris for this idea. Thank you as well to XM Doll and Boris Martinovich, two brand new Inquisitor tier Patreon supporters. Really appreciate you both as well. So, this list, my friends, has been through the ringer. I made a draft, and my first draft was mostly done, fleshed out. I was kind of doing it at work in spare moments. And then, you know, I left it like 90% completed, and then I went to look to see if any 5-0s had been published yet, and actually they had been. This was a couple days ago, and the first 5-0 dump dropped, and I was really pleased to see that most of what I was doing was actually very similar to what the 5-0 list that did get published ended up being on. There is one major difference. So, you may have already noticed, but everybody's favorite big, fat green beater that does not have an I in its name, so let's try to spell that again. My microphone is in the way when I type, and I'm recording, so that's my excuse. Tarmogoyf is not in the list, and I have 15 threats, and the 5-0 list had 19 threats, which to me is too high. Now, maybe 15 is too low, because Ignoble Hierarch, this was a little bit of debate in the Discord. I think it counts as about half of a threat, so maybe we're on 13 threats, which could be too low, but we have Lurrus's Companion, we have an Unearth, you know, it's definitely getting us there. We have lots of mana sinks, whatever. That said, I don't think you have to cut Tarmogoyf entirely. I think like adding 2 to this list at the expense of maybe like a discard spell and whatever the least desirable card from this column would be is totally fine. That said, if you're wondering why even consider playing without Goyf or why even consider trimming Goyf at all, here is why. So, Dauthi Voidwalker, non-bows with Goyf. Voidwalker hoses the opposing graveyard. Tarmogoyf thrives from the opposing graveyard getting filled. Voidwalker is also a shadow threat, which means that evasion is a form of a good clock, especially when you have power 3, and especially when Ignoble Hierarch gives it Exalted. Shadow threats benefit immensely from Exalted in a way that Tarmogoyf does not, because Goyf should already kind of be the biggest beater on the field, and is therefore either, you know, probably having a similar clock, even if it's +1/+1 potentially, or getting chump blocked, right? And Exalted not really changing the math so much, but +1/+1 proportionately benefits a smaller and more evasive creature more. Tourach Dread Cantor is also a 2/1 that can scale, or a 4/3 that can scale, depending on whether or not you kick him. And either way, this is an example of a card that can benefit from Exalted. And Grim Flayer, another example of a card that benefits more from Exalted than Tarmogoyf, because he's got evasion with trample, and he's either a 2/2 or a 4/4. Either way, that buff is relevant. Finally, and most importantly, Hexdrinker is just about the best creature in Rock these days. It really is. This card is insanely good. And at every stage of development, Hexy will also benefit from Exalted. You're going Savannah Lions mode, it's a 3/2. You're a 4/4, just like Grim Flayer, it's a 5/5. That's the least impressive mode, I guess, because it doesn't have trample, but still. But then, even when it's mini Progenitus mode, and it's like as big as a big Tarmogoyf, it still has protection from everything. So even then, you're out of chump block risk, and Exalted is relevant there too. So many signals to me were saying we don't have the best synergies with Tarmogoyf. Now again, That doesn't mean that it's unplayable. I don't think Tarmogoyf is canceled, but I hope you can understand how we have enough incentives to play without them. And like I said, playing 2 in here would be totally fine, or just upping the threat count by playing like 2 Bobs or 2 more Grim Flayers I think would be totally fine as well. I have opted for more interaction because we do have catch-all interaction in the form of 7 discard spells and 6 total of the BG Classic removal staples, 2 each of Pulse, Decay, and Trophy. And with Rock, we are shooting from the hip here. It is a wide open meta. We don't know what we need to target beyond broad ideas and hope beyond that, basically. So I think, you know, in a way that might make you say, well, just play more threats then and be more proactive. I get it, but the Rock draws with too many threats are just really bad. They're just really bad. So instead, I say play more interaction, but make it as universally live as possible. And that's what I tried to do here with this list. But thank you to the people on my Discord who helped me revise it. And then thank you also to Chris. After we kind of brewed it up, tweaked it as a group, Chris had the final say, made a few changes as well. But that's kind of the broad strokes. That is the core we've already covered, and also why we're not playing with Tarmogoyf. Also, we're not playing with Skoos because Dauthi Voidwalker is mostly better, but certainly not strictly better, right? But I think that is a more understandable cut probably to most people than the Goyfs. But that's what the deck looks like. So rounding out the things I didn't talk about, we have 21 lands, 2 copies of Field of Ruin. Now, these are looking worse in some ways than they used to. It's just harder and harder to accommodate colorless with double black for Dauthi Voidwalker, even green-black for Grim Flayer and Abrupt Decay, and triple black for Tourach on T4 or T3 maybe. You know, and also green early for Iggy himself. Lots of color demands that didn't used to exist in the deck. That said, Field of Ruin is still a good utility land for us in so many ways, and we can activate at T2 with Iggy to break up Tron, for example, on the draw. Very powerful, so I'm still trying to squeeze in 2. We've got some good fixing from our other utility lands, a Darkbore pathway, 2 Peatlands, and an Urborg. Urborg, of course, comboing with Peatland as well as with any colorless or green-only land to make them better. We've got 4 Bauble, and we've got a Chris suggestion for the 5th Lurrus loopable, Nihil Spellbomb. I didn't have this in the initial draft, but I like the suggestion. I was happy to take it on board. 4 copies of Hexdrinker, 4 Ignoble Hierarch, 4 Fatal Push, 4 Inquisition, and 3 Thoughtseize for a total of 7 discard spells as mentioned, and a 1 of Unearth. This is one of the first spells on my first draft. I think a 1 of Unearth plays really, really well in this deck for a variety of reasons. Happy to register it here. 2 Grim Flayer, 2 Tourach Dread Cantor, 3 Dauthi Voidwalker. Whatever you think about the relative power or rockability of these new threats, I think like this is a good proportion of 2 Tourach, 3 Voidwalker. Those numbers feel about right to me. I mentioned we've got 2 each of Pulse Decay Trophy, and also another Chris suggestion of Knight's Whisper to round out the 60. He wanted to put 2 in the side. I liked that idea so much that I said, I'll do you one better. We're going to put 1 main deck and the other one in the side, and he went along with that. Very cool stuff. We don't have Bobs. We don't have Planeswalkers. This is a good card advantage tool. Hopefully with our relatively painless mana base, the 2 life loss will not hurt us all that much. In the sideboard, there's a whole lot to talk about. I won't bog us down for too long in it, but couple copies of Reign of Tears. This can also be a turn 2 play with Iggy. We've got to break the ice. This is with Tron around. Obviously, this is just about best in class, but it's good against other decks, including Affinity, potentially. Sudden Edict, supplementary removal, but specifically good against Bogles and Through the Breach, which is why I wanted to play it here. This could be Liliana's Triumph, but we're trying the new tech. The second Knight's Whisper is mentioned. 2 Brutality, we all know what these are good for, lots of different things. 1 copy of Veil of Summer for the usual suspects where this is relevant. Chris convinced me to go down to 1, thinking it's more narrow than usual. I do agree. Chris also convinced me to play a Seal of Primordium over a Deglammer, which I very much like. He reasoned that the Deglammer targets Klothys, Wormcoil Engine, and of course Heliod. Not as common right now because people are trying the new tech, so let's instead play something with a higher ceiling as it pertains to Lurrus buying it back. That's what we're up to. Force of Vigor was literally the first sideboard card that I wrote down when I was developing the first draft. I think it's just incredible right now. I haven't played it that much in my Rock career, but it's been good for a little while now. I think it's very good at the moment. One of Surgical, I borrowed from the 5-0 list. This wasn't on my radar, but the more I looked at it, the more I like it. Little bit of everything. Little graveyard hate, little combo hate. Maybe good against Snapcaster decks, depending on what else you have to do. One of Damping Sphere. I'm not this card's biggest fan, but I also put it in here just because I think it's a pretty good fit when we're already hedging a little bit with here and there with kind of Swiss Army knife tech. Damping Sphere fits that bill nicely. We got a second Spellbomb and a one of Engineered Explosives. That's not the most synergistic with our 8-1 drops and everything else besides Lurrus at the 2-drop slot, right? But it has a lot of applications in the meta right now, so I shaved one from the 5-0 list, bringing it down to one of those. There we go, my friends. That's the deck tech. Now I'm going to go into the replay of round one. From there, I'll pass you over to myself to see the rest of the live recorded league. Thank you very much for watching. Thanks once again to an awesome dude, the donor, the supporter of this league, Chris, and let's play a little Horizons Rock, see how we do. Alright, my friends, we are on the draw, and we keep a greenless hand because it is well balanced, and with the Bauble and the draw, we've got many looks at green lands, right? We don't find one right away, the opponent goes Steam Vents past, that's fine. So we're going to Bauble and see an Opt. So we're against some kind of a blue deck, and we see they have a handful of action and an Emrakul. So we are against Through the Breach, and we can actually take away their second land. Now, it's not even clear that we should, because this is a red land, it enters the battlefield tapped, and also doesn't necessarily help them cast too much of anything. They've got blue pips everywhere, double counterspell, Archmage's Charm, and then Snapcaster Mage trying to snap that stuff back. It's all a little clunky. Nevertheless, knowing that they need to get to 5 mana for Through the Breach, and the rest of their hand being pretty redundant, I do take it anyway. An interesting spot with our first decision on turn 1, round 1, game 1. Opponent's going to try to Opt, and they're going to fail to draw a second land, so we are absolutely rewarded for that. We're going to go ahead and Bauble, and then it's Night's Whisper time, and despite all of these just being on the draw, all of the natural draws, all of the draws we're getting off of Bauble and Whisper, we still don't have a green land, so both players experiencing some fail rate with their lands, and the opponent maybe finds their way out of it first with the Cascade Bluffs, which is not a perfect land under the circumstances. They're not actually holding anything up right now, but is certainly a second land, and they will take that all day. Now, despite Bluffs not holding anything up and not being perfect, we're actually going to field it because we need to fix our own mana too. Despite all of those draws, we actually don't have a very good play without getting Iggy down. Iggy's going to help us explode out of the gates, maybe a little later than we'd prefer to, but also going to provide us some crucial mana fixing. Sadly, the opponent has made a third land drop, and I think it would have been a bold play, but a live play for them to just main phase take Iggy with Archmage's Charm, but they do respect our potential plays a little bit more when we are already on 3 lands, so they're just going to pass, holding up Counterspell, Archmage's Charm, what have you. I thought a little bit about what to do here, and I decided to lead on Grim Flayer, because I think it's good if it resolves, but I don't mind using it as counterbait. Then we tank a little bit here. We have 2 Hexdrinkers, right, which are fine cards in this matchup, but not when they have a couple Archmage's Charms in hand. The last thing we want to do is give them an actual threat that they can steal. Again, they can steal the Iggy, but we don't want to let them steal a Hexdrinker. That's a little bit of a different proposition. Anyway, we follow up with a Dauthi Voidwalker, kind of reasoning that this is good counterbait too, kind of like the Flayer was. And the reason we lead on Flayer is because I think on average, I'd rather the Flayer get countered than the Voidwalker. We know they have a snap in hand. But, you know, Voidwalker getting countered actually grows the Flayer to a 4/4. So ultimately, I think it's okay either way. Ignoble Hierarch getting in for 1. And the opponent not making a 4th land drop, crucially. So that is very helpful. Obviously, we don't want them to march up to 5. And we're forcing them to kind of play reactively here yet again. So we've got Exalted on the Grim Flayer. You do love to see it. Flayer will connect. We see Hexdrinker, Thoughtseize, and Unearth. There's actually a lot of desirability for Unearth. I don't want the Hexdrinker. We definitely bin that first. Thought about keeping the Unearth under the Thoughtseize, but we do just say, you know what, let's just fill up the graveyard And we're clearly going to draw that Thoughtseize next turn. That's exactly what we want, to kind of batter our way through their permission, or maybe take away a combo piece, whatever the case calls for. But then we play a second Flayer, once again kind of as counter magic bait, and then the opponent doesn't go for it, so we just put Lurrus into hand. We're kind of time-walking them a little bit, playing a fair game while also putting pressure on. And the opponent on the end step, because they didn't take Iggy before, I thought they were going to just draw 2. But now, on the end step, they take Iggy. And that's a little scary, right? But I think they're a little bit punished on the whole, because they do not draw a 4th land, and they've got to know that we're a mid-range deck, we've got Fatal Pushes and so forth in the main deck, so we can answer our own Dork, even though we'd prefer that he stayed on our side, but Iggy has been charmed. In any case, that Thoughtseize that we put on the top is where we kick off, and it'll draw out a counterspell. That's definitely just fine with us. So now we get to do any number of things. I thought about pulsing just for mana efficiency here, but not knowing exactly what else they could be on, I do decide to go for a Fatal Push. And the opponent will, in response, Iggy not being able to make blue for counterspell number 2, they're just going to flash in a Snapcaster Mage to get a body down to try to block us. But here is where Grim Flayer comes in, my friends, because we've got a bigger body than Snapcaster Mage, and we're trampling, so the chump blocks are not even very good. We don't care about that Ambush Viper mode too much, and we see more discard spells on the top. Now, there is an argument for just stacking all 3, keep the Inquisition in case the Thoughtseize doesn't get us there, keep the Fatal Push to push the snap, whatever. I think either way, we just have to put Thoughtseize on top, and beyond that, it's kind of whatever. So you could do anything there, really. I did decide to just see more cards with a second Flayer activation, and once again, we just kind of bin some okay stuff, leave a Thoughtseize on top. And now that we've won through 2 Archmage's Charms, I am more comfortable playing a Hexdrinker, especially because the opponent doesn't have the mana to either snap Hexy or to sink a lot of mana into Hexy. And there's the Thoughtseize that we knew was coming. They still don't have a 4th land. That's pretty lucky for us. Opponent's got some plays to make in response. They're going to take the Hexy, so they did have a 3rd Archmage's Charm. This is potential blowout territory against our deck a lot of the time. But as it so happens, they are actually just dead. We see a little more of their hand. We see a Through the Breach, basically. So they actually had the combo rolled up. At least now they do. I don't know exactly when they had it. And Iggy could have helped them get there with a 4th land off the top. But for the second time this game, we will remove our own creature that they so rudely stole, and then Grim Flayer's combination of power and trample, enough to close out the game with a Snapcaster just looking helplessly on. So, pretty cool way to win game 1. We had a lot of discard spells. Our removal was more relevant than you would on average expect it to be. A good lesson here is that Charm is a big blowout against us, but if it's a way for you to turn your own removal on, it can actually be fine for them to charm your stuff under some circumstances if you are denying them like a draw 2 off of it, for example, which is kind of what we did here, right? So some stumbling from the opponent that we were able to exploit with a decent clock. Turn 7, not the quickest clock of all time, but considering our own mana issues at the beginning of the game, the total inability to find green, and the fact that we had to spend turn 3 fielding, we'll take it, right? Grim Flayer, OP. Alright, my friends, so against this blue-red Through the Breach deck with control elements, we've got 2 Collective Brutality, a Veil of Summer, a Nihil Spellbomb, a Surgical Extraction, a Night's Whisper to play a little bit more of a fair game, and of course Sudden Edict to beat the payoff. Coming out are 4 Fatal Push, 2 Abrupt Decay, and 1 Maelstrom Pulse. Cards that have some use cases, but ultimately the least relevant, I think, overall of our removal spells, the most likely to be completely dead. But also higher floors for pointing it at non-lands, I guess, than trophies. So you could take out trophies, too, if you prefer. I wasn't sure if they would side in any, high-curve planeswalkers or something, so we just left the trophies in, or how many utility lands they might play. In any case, opponent will mulligan, and that is a great thing to see. We have a hand that is, suspiciously free of discard, which we do not like to see, but we've got the prospect of turn 1 Iggy enabling turn 3 Tourach, and we even draw a second Tourach in case the first one does get countered. So certainly an interesting one. We do have to fetch and shock there despite the off chance that they could be playing Blood Moon, and that's for exactly this purpose. If they bolt the Iggy, which they do, we want to be able to cast Voidwalker on curve, and we need double black for that. Look at that, we draw a Swamp anyway, so we're going to cast Tourach kicked at some point, and we are going to be a little safe from Blood Moon. And of course, we are going to go for a good old Dauthi Voidwalker, who's going to get counterspelled. Still kind of funny to see counterspell in Modern, and it got us good there, the Voidwalker not resolving. Opponent curving out with their lands, third land drop pass, and I am actively afraid of Archmage's Charm under these circumstances in ways that I wasn't by the time the mid to late game hit last game. So we're going to lead on a Night's Whisper, and if it got countered, I was going to consider playing a Hexdrinker, but it doesn't, it resolves, and we get a couple of cards that we can at least play, so Mishra's Bauble, and Ignoble Hierarch, and we see an island off the top, and that actually makes me think, okay, if we play an Iggy and they just steal it, then we know they have the 4th land on top, that's the 5th mana, they could have the combo rolled up in hand. We haven't seen their hand, we don't know. So you could say that we're supposed to make them have it, we're supposed to play our cards, but, you know, we're not choked on mana. So I decided not to give them the turn 4 kill, if I could help it, by handing them Ignoble Hierarch. So an interesting spot, maybe playing a little too cautiously, you might say, but also maybe doing exactly what we need to do to live. Who knows? We don't, because we don't have any hand information. But they play that land, they've got 2 cards in hand, they have Snap bolted on the end step, and, you know, the life total is getting kind of low, especially with the Snap pressure. So we're hoping that Tourach just catches them with their proverbial pants down here, because then he's going to be a 4-3, putting them hellbent, and also able to block Snap. And unfortunately, they do have a counterspell, so Tourach at least drawing that out, but unable to resolve really any permanence right now. Snappy's going to attack us down to 8. OP plays a Spire Bluff Canal, so they do have the 5th land, but at ETB tapped, and there's only 1 card left in hand. And I debated, well, with only 1 card in hand, do we still cast Tourach? And my conclusion was yes, because it could be 1/2 of the combo. Getting that out of there is good. It's not as good if Tourach only gets 1/+1/+1 counter here, because he still has to trade with Snap if they attack, but that is what it is, and we do at least beat an Ether Gust with Tourach. So, hey, a nice 2-for-1 from Tourach, even though the first one would have been even better. And sure enough, here comes the attack, and I think we have to trade so we don't get bolted out of the game, basically. So Tourach's ceiling could have been higher there, but I think it was good enough. The floor was good enough for us, a decent 2-for-1. So now we've got a decision to make. We've drawn the 6th land, which is actually kind of good just because we're trying to find a great spot for Hexdrinker. We now know that we knew their whole hand. They're playing totally off the top with 1 unknown. So I decided to lead on Dauthi Voidwalker because it's a good card if it resolves. If it gets countered, well, then we have free reign for Hexy. And with their 1 top deck, they found a Cryptic Command, which is actually terrifying. That's obviously a perfect top deck for them. That said, we do still get to jam Hexy, and we get to put it all the way to level 3, crucially beating Archmage's Charm, and that is huge. One of the opponent's 2 fresh cards, at least, is an island, and the other one is unknown, so we're going to go ahead and Bauble, and the Bauble is going to target them. We're going to see Valakut Awakening off the top, so a little more selection, but that gives us, I think, the all-clear to go and try to put it to level 8, and if they have some kind of effect here, we'll at least have a mana left over for Nihil Spellbomb. So that's what we're going to go for, and level 8's going to resolve. We've got Mini Progenitus, and the opponent's got a Snapcaster Mage. So let the record state, my friends, we put them into top deck mode, and their 2 top decks have been Cryptic Command, which helped find them the 6th land, and then Snapcaster Mage to snap back Cryptic Command. So you can't say that the opponent's not top decking well, right? They've also had an early hand full of counter spells and so forth. But we're still in it, despite being at 7. We do have a Hexdrinker at level 8. That's got to count for something. We get a Spellbomb down. We draw a bit of a brick off the top. But let's see what opponent's up to here. They're going to get aggressive with Snappy. Obviously, this can't block a level 8 Hexy, so you understand. And then they're just going to say go. No other land drop made. So I'm going to begin, and again, you could go a couple different ways here. I'm back to being a little bit leery of Archmage's Charm taking my Hexdrinker, though. That's a good way to hand the opponent the victory, kind of like we could have with Ignoble Hierarch at the wrong time if they had the combo ready. So instead, I'm going to play the value game, put Lurrus into hand, and immediately cast it without showing them the extra land quite yet, because that just reduces the amount of things that they think we can do. So we're going to kind of test them here for permission. If Lurrus resolves, I think that's good. If it gets just a 1-for-1 trade out of them, I think that's good too, because they're just not comboing that way. But if Lurrus resolves, we're starting to play the fair game in a couple different ways. We can potentially lifelink, and we can obviously Bauble or Spellbomb loop them out of the game on the value axis. The big problem is we do Bauble them, and we see lightning bolts about to come off the top, so we know Lurrus is about to die. Then what do? Do we stay back with Hexdrinker? Well, I thought about it, but then I said, no, you know what? They're a combo deck. We need to kill them. So let's just play Iggy. Lurrus is going to die to the bolt. Iggy can at least chump block Snapcaster, keep us out of bolt range, maybe help us win the race against Snappy if they don't have anything else. And, of course, giving an Exalted trigger to Hexdrinker, just as intended. And the OP had an Archmage's Charm after all. They're going to draw 2. Very glad we didn't try a Hexdrinker number 2 plan or anything like that, right? So, feeling relatively rewarded thus far, but anything can happen. They've got 4 cards now. They could just combo kill us. But do they have the combo? Doesn't look like it, because they kick off with an Opt. Then they're going to Bolt Lurrus, which we knew was kind of the floor of their turn. They're going to play another Spire Bluff Canal, which obviously we don't care about, and here comes Snappy. And then there goes Iggy, a heroic sacrifice from the Ignoble Hierarch. Who says he's ignoble? He's very noble, if you ask me. We draw Grim Flayer, which might not look like much, but remember, they didn't combo us last turn, so they might have one more top deck to look at it. And I actually kind of like the Flayer draw the more I look at it, because it's just 2 blockers, right? We're going to kick off with a Nurturing Peatland because this could provide us with an alternative option, like not exposing Hexy to a potential charm. But if we don't find anything, then we're probably going to have to play both and hope. Now we've drawn Inquisition, so now we can see exactly what the opponent has got, right? So Inquisition is going to force a Snapcaster Mage out of their hand. They're going to go ahead and Lightning Bolt if they can, but they cannot, because we'll respond with a Nihil Spellbomb. We'll get another draw. We'll clear out that graveyard. Inquisition will see another fast land, no big deal. So then we'll play the Bauble that we drew off of Spellbomb, and we see Counterspell on the top. The downfalls, my friends, of playing Permission, that is just game. We play Grim Flayer, we play Hexdrinker, put a level on because why not, but they're actually unable to finish us off with attacks. They have a land and a counterspell in hand, and they are dead on board to the level 8 Progenitus. Dauthi Voidwalker showing up to peep the victory just for moral support. So there you go, my friends, a clean but narrow 2-0 win over Through the Breach to kick off this league. We did see basically every part of the build playing its role. We saw some decent moments for Tourach, some decent moments for Dauthi Voidwalker. These kind of became like Tourach was a 2-for-1, Dauthi Voidwalker was a must answer, and that cleared the way for Hexdrinker to really get us over the line. And of course, game 1, Grim Flayer really got us over the line. In both cases, you know, discard spells were obviously very live. We had some value from Lurrus helping bury the opponent as well, so a bit of a well-rounded rock display, you have to say. Even got to resolve a Night's Whisper just to pull ahead even further. So a satisfying win all in round 1. Definitely a few sketchy moments, definitely some moments where if they had the combo rolled up, we couldn't have done much about it. But there you go, guys. That was our round 1 that I failed to record. I hope you enjoyed the replay, and now over to me for the remainder of the league in live recorded form as it was intended to be. All right, we will absolutely keep this one in the blind on the draw, and I'm really annoyed with myself, my friends, because I'm in round 2 and I don't think I was recording round 1. That's what happens when you're just like doing a million things at once all the time. I even did like a test recording to make sure everything sounded good, and then after the test I just kind of forgot to hit start recording again, so that feels bad. We just got off a really intense, tightly navigated round 1, which I think would have been good live content, but I'll try to recreate that in replay form after the fact here. I'll have to go back and do that, I guess. Anyway, we are against Red Deck Wins, which is not a very good one for us like it used to be, because good old Tarmogoyf is not with us, and that is sorely, sorely missed, right? But at least they mulliganed, and at least we have a Fatal Push, which is pretty crucial here. Manamorphose, okay. Hopefully we don't see a turn 2 entity, because we don't have an out to that at the moment. Sprite Dragon, got it. We're going to push the one that's bigger right now. We've got Decay for the dragon, although we'll have to operate off Peatland for now, which is bad. We'll have to hold off on our Inquisition, which is bad. Yep, still think we're supposed to hold up Decay here. Night's Whisper, relatively bad. Unless they just kind of stumble and give us a chance to get our feet underneath us, but we don't have the beefy green threats. We don't have the life gain of Skoos. Like, this matchup feels a lot scarier on this build than it did with an old build, and I was really hoping to dodge it today. All right, well, it's a pretty awful play all around, but I think we do kind of need to spend a life to field their Islet to get another Swamp, which doesn't even affect our mana that well, and then Inquisition them. Otherwise, it's like Inquisition into Night's Whisper, lose 3, which I guess is okay too, but I think a more optimistic play is to hit their Islet and hope they flood after we nab something with IOK. Opponent does not bother floating. So let's just fire this off and see what's what. Lightning Bolt and Expressive Iteration. I think we just have to allow them to have the bolt, which is rough, but this is the rebuild card that we cannot afford to allow them. They will promptly draw a threat, which is also kind of rough. We don't have Delirium right now for Flayer, although with the Nihil Spellbomb in the yard, we could achieve it. Just kind of want to keep drawing kill spells, though, really. Dauthi Voidwalker. Pretty rough one. With Shadow, it obviously can't block anyway. I think we have to roll the dice on a Night's Whisper here. Either that or crack a Spellbomb. I'm just going to rip off the Band-Aid and go for Night's Whisper here. Another swamp. Okay. Well, we can play Grim Flayer. It's just going to die to Lightning Bolt. Maybe we're supposed to play Voidwalker here, because if they use the bolt will then go into exile. And then our second, like, let's say they bolt our Voidwalker. The bolt will go into exile with Void counter on it. We can play the second Voidwalker and bolt their Sprite Dragon. And then stick a Grim Flayer, and we're still behind by a lot, right? But then it's like finding us a kill spell, potentially. Alright, let's see where they point the bolt. Just upstairs. Alright, that probably is the right play. Since we have a second Voidwalker, I was hoping they'd point it at the board. Oh, they just draw a second bolt. Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. Yep, we were always pretty dead there, I think. Yeah, this matchup really sucks now. We have cards to bring in, make no mistake. But it really sucks, especially the blue one, I think. Although maybe they're all just kind of equally bad. We're going to cut Night's Whisper and probably all Thoughtseizes here. At least those are some good swaps. 2 Brutality and Edict and EE. But, I mean, Voidwalker and Tourach are both very average here. Especially Tourach. I don't, sometimes on other rock builds I won't play Damping Sphere against Prowess at all, but here I think I'm supposed to because we have enough bad cards to bring out. On a old-fashioned rock build, pre-MH2 rock build, you don't have enough bad cards to come out, so Sphere is a little more borderline in that sense. But I do think I like it there. Maybe we try a Tourach just to kind of try to get him. Tourach does get better with Sphere because we can stick cards in hand and then him them out of hand. I still think we need a minor miracle to win both post-side games, though. I think on the play we're maybe going to be in it. On the draw, who knows? We might need a deep mull or something. I think we can run it like this, though. And despite the kill spells, that was a pretty mediocre hand against Prowess overall. I'll keep this one. Kick off with the Bauble on them. They're going to draw Sprite Dragon for turn. So they're going to have 2 Sprite Dragons, 2 lands, Swifty, Soulscar, Opt, and Lightning Bolt. Oh, no. That's like an incredible hand against us. Very, very good hand against us. Normally you take the threats here, but they have 4 of them and only 2 enablers, so like taking Lightning Bolt also makes a good deal of sense. I'm taking the Bolt in the full acknowledgement that, like, if they draw more non-creature spells, we are punished for that, or if we draw lots of, like, a decent amount of removal, we're punished for that. And we start by drawing an Abrupt Decay, but, we don't have green anyway, right? So, whatever. That's just kind of a stacked hand when we're not on Goyf and Skoos. The colorless lands. We're drawing them a lot in the matchups where we don't want to see them. I think we're going Dauthi Voidwalker mode here. We can at least use our Field of Ruin to cast an Opt or something at some point, right? Or no, sorry, you don't even pay the mana cost. Not that that's a very good use of a 2-mana sorcery to Opt, but you understand desperate straits here, I guess. Yeah, if there was ever a Rock League I needed to fade this matchup, it was this one. Normally I'm like, bring it on. This matchup is fun for Rock and a fine one, but yeah, not what we wanted to see here. Okay, so we're starting to look pretty immediately punished for taking Lightning Bolt. Like I said, if they draw non-creature spells right away, it's going to look bad. And they have drawn the non-creature spell to get the whole team hyped, which is Manamorphose. I guess they drew another Swifty, too. Bra moment. Alright, we're probably looking for EE here. Need some way to 2-for-1 them. We can Manamorphose with Dauthi Voidwalker. Kind of funny. Gonna fetch now in case they draw light up the stage next turn, but we are just kind of priced into the push and the decay here as far as I can tell. Okay, OP gonna bolt our Voidwalker. I think that could really help us in the long run. Obviously, we still have a whole lot of threats to contend with here. Unearth. Unearth is an interesting one to be sure. We only have the one target, but I still think that's good enough here. Now, if they kill the Voidwalker, we can play Lurrus and buy it back, or we could if we had 4 black sources instead of 2. I guess we need to draw Urborg to do that all on one turn. We could fix our mana a bit with going Field into Lurrus into Bauble. Of course, they'll draw Expressive Iteration off the top, which is a very good one. I guess the upside for us is that it's turn 4, they still haven't deployed a Sprite Dragon, nor will they this turn. But, still, they're doing a whole lot, right? Another Soulscar Mage and a land. It's all adding up. So at this point, we need to just keep answering the board. Maybe plan to draw an EE for 2 at some point for the Dragons or an Inquisition. Again, the lack of black mana really killing us here. It's pretty awful. Take him off of blue, though. Actually, now that I think about it, I'll be honest, I didn't think of that right away. All right, my friends, we are doing a whole lot, and I still don't think we're going to win this game. And if we do, I still think we're pretty unfavored for G3. But we are doing a whole lot. They drew a 3rd Sprite Dragon. Maybe they're all stranded in hand. No, they have another Steam Vents. Dang. That would have been a way to make the fields from clunky to amazing, right? All right, we can't take the block here. We can't call the bluff. We're just going to take the hit. Get in on the crackback for some lifelink and buy back another Dauthi Voidwalker. EE. Nice one, nice one, nice one. Ignoble Hierarch. Ooh, Exalted plus lifelink is a nice little synergy here. And we know both cards in their hand, I believe. I guess we'll just start with Inquisition to make sure that we do. But we sure do. Okay. This is actually a little bit of a tough spot, though, because we could instead just buy back Bauble and play EE on 2, and that's not bad either. I think they're about the same, like playing Hierarch for an Exalted, buying back Dauthi Voidwalker. That's a good turn. Because they need something like they need Manamorphose into another non-creature spell off the top to make us really punished for that. But the EE on 2 is definitely live. I think I'm going to lean into the new technology. We're going to put our faith in Hierarch and Voidwalker here, but let the record state the other play was good too. Very, very interesting stuff, my friends. This also has the upside, of course, of if the opponent doesn't not draw here, they play out into our EE that much harder. But of course they will not draw with the exact card. The only card I think we were afraid of, which is Manamorphose, and they've already seen at least one this match, which is just silly. Alright, we could easily die here. And I think on average that was probably the better play, although admittedly it was riskier. They find a kill spell for Lurrus. Big yikes. Alright. We're just taking such a huge hit here, it really sucks. We'll pretty much have to chump. Thankfully we do have the EE to clean up, but my goodness. Okay, Sudden Edict. So, what in their graveyard would we like to cast? Probably Expressive Iteration. This is going to be 1 into hand, 1 on bottom, and exile 1. You may play the exiled card this turn? Or, no, maybe we just Wild Slash. Like, keep an Edict in the back pocket. Kill their whole board. I'd love to be able to set up, but I don't think we have the mana this turn to do that. I'm going to save this until beginning of combat in case they draw their 4th Sprite Dragon. We'll make them slow roll it and save a point of life. Alright, they bricked for turn, it's a land. Life totals are close. Unfortunately, we've already used our Unearth. I didn't mention at the time, but could have been cool to try to save the Unearth if we were under less pressure to buy back Lurrus at some point. We draw Fatal Push, which is obviously okay. At this point, though, I'm just want to draw something proactive to do. Oh my goodness, they're playing Seasoned Pyromancer, and that's what they rip off the top. You are not serious. That's unbelievable. Okay. We're in a bad matchup and we're really getting punished by top decks. You gotta admit out there at home. Alright, I think we're gonna fix our mana. Take a kill with Fatal Push, but feels awful. Feels awful, because they're just gonna get the tokens back at some point, and that's gonna be really good against us. It's gonna make our Sudden Edict worse, to the point where maybe we actually should just Edict the Pyro. I don't know. The problem is Push can't beat Stormwing Entity, but neither can Edict if they make the tokens first. So I guess we're gonna Edict, but whatever. I hate that draw so much anyway. I think that probably beats us. Especially if we draw land off the top. Okay. Back to you, OP. Okay, they're just going to make the tokens, so let's draw something hot. Mishra's Bauble. Mishra's Bauble. Alright. I guess we'll Bauble them now. Just so we have a spell next turn, potentially. They're about to draw Flame Slash. Good to know about. That kills all of our threats, though, so that's a little bit rough. Ooh, they don't have a land to fetch. I assumed they did. I think they assumed they did, too. So they mess up the scry, or whatever you want to call it. Oh, but we just can't capitalize. We draw a land off the Bauble trigger. But they're not making tokens, and they're off of blue, so like if we can just stop drawing lands off the top. Okay. Technically not a land. We'll take Inquisition, but not exactly what I meant, is it? Threads of Disloyalty, Lava Dart, Lightning Bolt, Stormwing Entity. Mana value 2 or less. This is going to get everything in our entire deck. Leaving the bolts and the darts is obviously pretty bad in a couple different ways, including they enable Stormwing Entity. Or they can just burn us out, like we're dead to another Lightning Bolt if we leave those. We have used... This is our third Inquisition, though. We have one more to draw plus 2 Collective Brutalities, and the Brutalities don't hit Threads of Disloyalty, so I think we have to take that in the hopes that we just, like, won't get burned out. We can find a threat. We can find enough threats that they maybe have to point burn spells at, but it's looking pretty bad. We needed to put the pressure on in those turns that it looked like they were bricking, and they weren't actually bricking. They were just, like, drawing spells they don't have to use proactively yet. So they found really good stuff when they needed it. They've also been out top-decking us. Okay, Dauthi Voidwalker is a card that they might have to answer, so we'll take it. But obviously they get to answer it and then play Stormwing Entity, so... yeah, maybe punished for using the Edict when we thought they had a 5th land effect. I think that was the correct play, and again, they know their own deck. They thought they had a 5th land effect, so whatever. But this is probably going to seal our fate here. We have a couple trophies to draw, a couple pulses. That's about it, as far as I can remember. Come on, big draw off the top. Grim Flayer's not it. We're dead to the Lava Dart. Puts the entity to 5/5 and puts us to 5 when they flash it back. Really unfortunate, but that's just how the matchup goes. Like, we did so many good things, but without Goyf and Skoos, our stuff is too small to survive everything they've got, especially when the opponent's teching with, like, Threads of Disloyalty and Seasoned Pyromancer, which is not stuff you see every day. Horrible matchup. I think we showed a lot of good use cases for the new tech, but that's just how it is. This is the matchup that falls off the hardest, as far as I can tell, when you move away from the core green threats. Alright, we've got a 1-lander, and it's a forest we have to mulligan. It's a pretty tempting 1-land keep if that was a dual land, right? But that's another 1-lander, a 1-land 6. I guess we're going to keep this one. And it's a really tough call, actually, as to what to bottom here. I think we definitely want to keep the Night's Whisper to unmulligan us, and it probably is a little bit loose to mulligan the Hexdrinker, or to bottom the Hexy or the Pulse, because there are only Threat and Onboard Answer, respectively. So even though the discard spells are the only guaranteed castables, and even though there's 3 in the opener, which is perfect for us, I think, especially against a mulling opponent, I kind of want to bottom one. Then again, the higher upside is to keep all 3, probably bottom Pulse, because it's the hardest to cast, and we have a deck filled with onboard answers, so I think I'm talking myself into bottoming the Pulse, but it is probably between that and, I don't even know if it's Inquisition or Thoughtseize, right? That's a whole kind of sub-discussion. But let's hope that we discard them out of this game. Whoever they are, whatever they're up to. Counterspell, Force of Negation, Shark Typhoon. Take your counterspell. Okay. We're rewarded for keeping the triple discard. Let's just draw like a Blooming Marsh off the top, and that will be a great start here. Ignoble Hierarch, brah moment. I'd play it if we had a green land. Okay, stuck on one land after a mulligan's control. Let's go. Oh my. Oh guys, what can we do sometimes? Can't really do too much about this stuff. Okay, well, they are gonna draw a counterspell. They don't actually have a second blue land right now. Obviously, they can get one in many different ways, but I think I'm still supposed to take one of the top-end things. We're just probably never beating Teferi or even Shark Typhoon, but I'll take Tef. Whatever. So tilting. Kind of had a weird feeling about this league that we were just, playing Rock in a widely unknown meta is kind of tough. And then when you're experimenting on top of that, and then when you're having stuff like this happen on top of that, it's all a little much. Okay, 4th turn straight, breaking on the land. Obviously, opponent knows we're bricking because we would have played that long ago if we didn't just draw it. We would have played a second land long ago if we had it. Okay. We hate to see the Flooded Strand. That means they are going to be live. Or I thought we'd see a cycle here. Maybe we are still. Yeah, okay. For a second I had flashbacks and was thinking they were going to like electrolyze us or something. All right. Okay, Blooming Marsh. Just in time. Turn 5, second land drop. Just in time to play into the counterspell. We could still easily overwhelm their permission because we have taken a lot of it away. We have taken the biggest payoff. They've cycled away the other biggest payoff. We could still definitely get there. Especially if we can Thoughtseize away the counterspell or something, or trade the Thoughtseize for the counterspell is maybe more like it. It's a good draw. Uh-oh, the fetch. Just counterspell. Yeah, okay. Let's get this Iggy down. Imagine how different this game could have been if this one land that we opened on was Blooming Marsh. No, Lightning Bolt. Okay. Still only a 1-for-1 trade. They have a land. So we're just fading the top end now. We're just fading the top end. We can still absolutely get there if we fade the top end for a little while. Okay, double Dauthi Voidwalker, Hexdrinker, Night's Whisper. I think we have to go for Night's Whisper here. Try to draw a green land to play Hexdrinker just so we're double spelling and not failing to curve out. Really wanted to obviously draw the third land naturally there. Oh no! 2 more spells. No more lands. Yikes. We're going to lose to the 1/1 shark at this rate. Still just want to draw a third land more than anything else by far. That gives us the most options. And we have. It is Urborg. but we have. So I think we do have to lead on Thoughtseize here. I think there's a decent chance it doesn't really land, but we have to. We're starting to just deploy threats. This is the time to force out a cryptic or whatever it might be. And indeed they have. So we failed to answer the top end, unfortunately, but we are at least going to stick a Voidwalker here. Okay, Flagstone's getting exiled. Bet you didn't expect that, OP. Bet you didn't think about that one. That we have made them into a 4-color control deck, by the way, so now I'm legally allowed to complain about the 4-color piles, right? That's how that works. Shark Typhoon, Assassins, Abrupt Decay doesn't beat that, does it? Nope. Okay. Gotta draw an Assassin's Trophy, I guess. Or a Maelstrom Pulse. And then we can play the Shark Typhoon after that. That'd be so hype. Instead it is Inquisition. Okay, let's Inquisition, looking for something, I guess. This could obviously whiff too, but I think it's the highest upside play overall. Snapcaster Mage. Okay, we take it. So I admit that I have no idea how this works. If we sack Voidwalker to play Snapcaster, we play that for free, but then I'm assuming it will target our graveyard. And then we can snap back like Night's Whisper, which is not the very greatest. So I think we're probably just supposed to play a Hexdrinker here and attack. And try to hope they flood out. To be fair, our clock is pretty good. If they brick for 1 turn, we'll get the Hexy up to level 3, and they do brick. Nice. Nice, nice, nice. Can't bank on that forever, but banking on it for 1 turn is certainly helpful. Opponent maybe doing a little quick combat math to see what our clock looks like after we level Hexy. Grim Flayer, huh? Little awkward. I think we're just shoving all in on Hexy here and forcing them to find a way to beat it. A land off the top next turn is going to make it level 8, right? I think given our awkwardness, given the fact that not everything we're doing lines up, that's probably the best line. So OP's got some incentives to make the chump block here, and indeed they do. Because if they don't do it now, they might not ever get to do it. And also, if they hadn't done it there, they would have gone down pretty darn low. Uh-oh, they're rip a bomb. Please no Little Tef. Or Planeswalker. It's Jace. No! Oh, man. That's so awful. I was going to say also that would put them to 8, which means they're in danger of lethal if they fetch, but Jace was just the ultimate top deck, obviously. Anything that makes a shark and bounces Hexdrinker, the first thing that... Oh, but they don't bounce Hexy. They don't bounce Hexy. They're going to brainstorm. And you understand it because it makes Shark Typhoon even better, and because they're very unlikely to totally break off of it. But it is a little greedy. Still possibly the right play, though, overall. Maybe they just don't want to lose Jace on the crackback to Dauthi Voidwalker. I understand all that. Cleansing Wildfire. Just let some cantrip and make a shark and make us slightly statistically less likely to draw a fourth land. They're just hanging back. Oh, sorry, they're summoning sick, of course. Okay. Tourach, Dread, Cantor, not the top deck of dreams. Can't believe we did not hit the fourth land by turn 10. So, no level 8 Hexdrinker for us. So I'm thinking about just decaying the big shark, attacking Jace off the field with Dauthi Voidwalker, sending the 4/4 at the opponent, and then making it level 4, or level 5 rather, so that next turn, even without a land, it can become level 8. And then we just kind of need them to brick one more time again. It's really not that unreasonable. Shadow OP. Opponent once again chumping, which is good. We're kind of like keeping the value of Shark Typhoon to a minimum. At the same time, I know that their first chump block, I would say, is correct. I think that one is probably correct too. It's a little less guaranteed to be correct, maybe because we can just become level 8 next turn anyway on board, but still, definitely don't hate it out of OP. And if we do become level 8, they go to 1. So they've ripped something off the top. Oh my god. Really? Are they're just going to draw back-to-back Jason to Teferi off the top? Like for their natural draws. Because they just fetched, so there was no brainstorm shenanigans going on there, if I'm not mistaken. At least Tef does have to downtick, and at least he gets attacked off the field, but obviously these are some pretty insane ones for OP. Okay, we draw Assassin's Trophy, huh? We can do so many things here, because we can now turn our Dauthi Voidwalker into a Jace the Mind Sculptor. We can bounce their Shark. Or we could Brainstorm and try to double spell. Ooh, man, this is a tantalizing turn, my friends. So, and even like using Dauthi for that purpose isn't obvious, because we do just have the clean attack on Teferi, right? I also kind of want a Trophy Shark Typhoon. If we could only draw the 4th land, I just want a double spell, dude. Alright. I think we want to answer Teferi. Because, like, the thing about Shark Typhoon is, again, if they just hit a land, it doesn't do anything for that turn. But maybe the safest play is to try to... We could lose a race to the Shark if we do this, but, like, attack Tef, trophy the Shark Typhoon. That's probably the thing to do. Now we can add Shark Typhoon to the list of cards that we can cast off Dauthi Voidwalker for free if we ever need to or want to. Just again, wish we had anything else here. Fatal Push would be fine. Fatal Push would be so fine. Alright, Fade in the top deck. Here comes a beat for 5. You hate to see it. There's a 4th land. Okay. So I think I kind of like leading on their Jace, turning the Voidwalker into their Jace, and just bouncing the Shark, and then trying to double spell with Grim Flayer and Dauthi Voidwalker. We could also go for like a Snapcaster Mage. I think it's just Jace. Or it could be Tef. Hold up. Should it be Tef? Probably. Jace is cooler, but probably. Well, that seemed really good. Alright, so having done that, we can now Tourach the last card out of their hand, but it doesn't seem like it's the most relevant card ever. So I think we're instead supposed to double spell with a 2nd Voidwalker and a Grim Flayer. I should not have fetched first, I guess, but doesn't really matter. We'll lead on the Flayer, follow up with the Voidwalker. I don't think they have a sweeper in their hand. I think they would have possibly just fired that off if they had it, although it's getting a little hard to track everything that's gone on. Lightning Bolt to finish off our Teferi, fair enough. And they do it in response to the Voidwalker on the stack, makes sense. So now we really do need to fade a sweeper. And no, that's not me shot calling. All right. We're untapping with Dauthi Voidwalker. Do we cast a Jace, or do we cast like a Shark Typhoon? Or what do we do? What do we do? I think I'm just going to try to cast Jace and Fate Seal them. Attacking is not unreasonable either. But Jace seems pretty good. Okay, you can have that Scalding Tarn, my friend. So I've never, I think, done this before. Scalding Tarn on the bottom, we say no. Cool. And we'll see what happens with this Grim Flayer attack, and then it's either play Tourach for lethal, or put Lurrus into hand, depending on what they do to the Flayer, if anything. I guess I'm pretty happy just binning all 3 of those cards. None of them look like what we need here. And I think I'm just going to play a kicked Tourach to ensure lethal next turn. Unless, like, I think exactly Remand punishes us here, like turning on permission and giving them something besides a land on top. What are we tapping out for here? Oh my god, this is terrifying. A gigantic Shark Typhoon? You've got to be kidding me. It's exactly lethal as Shark Typhoon. That is probably the most infuriating way to have lost this. We're at exactly 6. Unbelievable. And there's nothing we could have done because Maelstrom Pulse obviously is sorcery speed. Absolutely disgusting. Okay. Yeah, whatever. I think we can kind of throw the results of this league out, just given all the usual factors of like playing Rock into a brand new meta and experimenting with Rock and all that. We're having fun. That was like a really cool match, or a really cool game rather. But I don't know if anything else they could possibly have had beats us there. But sure, maybe we could have just played reactively with Dauthi Voidwalker. I don't think that's probably correct though. Anyway, Veil of Summer, Night's Whisper, Collective Brutalities. Nihil Spellbomb, possibly. We're going to cut the pushes even though they are okay against all those sharks. And could cut a Decay for a similar reason. Could play with only one Spellbomb since we are on Dauthi Voidwalker to begin with. Probably about equal. I think I'll keep a couple Decays around in case a little Teth really needs to be got, I guess. But that was demoralizing, not gonna lie. Oh well, it happens. I'll note that Dauthi Voidwalker has the effect of opening up just almost infinite decisions, infinite branches on the decision tree, if you will, and therefore a very skill-testing card, and one that might be sure to generate a lot of comments of, you know, you could have done this or that with Dauthi Voidwalker. The permutations are very, very numerous, I guess is the only thing I can say about that. I think taking the Jaces and Tefts worked out pretty well for us. They just, again, I don't know if anything besides exactly Shark Typhoon beats us there, and we'd already seen a couple of them. So, go figure, GG, right? GG, GG. It is possible the clock could be a factor if we win this one. This hand's kind of average, but I'm going to keep it on the play. I do like that Urborg here is enabling turn 2 Voidwalker. That's pretty great. I do like that the OP is mulling as well. Castle Vantress, got it. Nihil Spellbomb and Dauthi Voidwalker. We've got some overlap here, we have to admit, but at least we did something with our mana T1. We have another Voidwalker in the back pocket, so the grave is officially hated. And we're putting some baubles on the field. Still need to draw a third land. Got a couple more looks at that. Can always turn the Voidwalker into one, even though that's awful, once they fetch. Maybe they won't fetch to play around it. Now they do. know about Valakut Awakening now. Okay, there's a Hexdrinker, which I don't really love at the moment. I just kind of want to draw a third land, like I've been saying here. Voidwalker eating a bolt. Okay. Oh my goodness. No third land. I'm just gonna play Voidwalker and say go. Like, with when you're on rock, you need your curve to help you out a little bit. You need to have a little more balance than this. We're stumbling way too much for our own good here. We're not a deck that does that very well. Like, we use every mana source pretty optimally most times. And here's the Tef right on cue. Yeah, this sucks. But, yeah, when that's not really being allowed by the draws, then we're in for a rough one. Okay, I think we just Inquisition play Hexdrinker, but... Okay, they're Snapcaster, they have Jace, they have Supreme Verdict. Okay, this one's probably over. Okay, they play the Island, so they're not actually representing Instant Speed Verdict, and it's, I guess, because they're tapping out for Jace, but that was still interesting. I guess, sorry, that would have entered tapped. I'm not used to seeing that. Alright, they're bouncing the Hexy. So if we can draw the third land, we can at least pulse Jace cleanly, and he gains some tempo for them, but no advantage. Or I guess it's about even on tempo. We invest 4, so did they. But if we don't draw the third land, then we're back to where we were, right? There it is, okay. Still just gonna Pulse Chase here. We have a couple other plays, but I do like this. And then if we draw the fourth land, I'm gonna just kick Tourach and hope to get, like, Verdict and a land out of their hand or something if they just are drawing maybe, like, removal spells or lands. Alright, come on, fourth land, let's go. Nope, the third Hexdrinker, which is not necessarily one to complain about, but yeah, you do kind of hate to see it in this spot, because it's just too clunky against Teferi and against Verdict and against us not curving out. So, we can either put Lurrus into hand, maybe time walk them a little bit. I think I'd rather play Dauthi Voidwalker here, and just hold up Spellbomb. I'm not playing 2 threats out into Verdict. But if they countered Dauthi, then I'd play Hexdrinker. But they're not, so... Pass to you. Yeah, it's just frustrating, because I know there's going to be a lot of question marks about the list, right? So, like, I'd love to have more reasonable variants and better matchups to show. I think if we're paying attention... we can see what the list is capable of, right? We can see a lot of upsides with this, and I've never said that this is the final form of anything, right? Anyway, but it is tough when you just are not hitting those lands, man, not hitting those lands, and opponent's hitting all the planeswalkers. There's another Teferi. Huh. Well, maybe they really want to get the Spellbomb off the field, but I'm certainly going to bounce in response. Seems really good. I kind of wanted to anyway to try to hit a fourth land, and a trophy off the top is not a fourth land. But we kind of break the down tick there, and if we just draw the 4th land naturally, it's Tourach time, and that's actually awesome. So, deck, you owe the 4th land to us. Come on, we need the 4th land. Please. Please. Alright. It's just not really meant to be. Now, is it? So I think I actually kind of want to field their Castle Vantress, which is a good late game card against us, and just play an Ignoble Hierarch. We could turn on a Cryptic Command or whatever. I'm not really playing around that. Really hard to make this type of stuff up. But it's happening. But it's happening to us. Urborg enabling us really well here, you have to say. We'll move to second main so that mana goes away. I'm kind of glad that we didn't see like a Cryptic bounce a land or something. That would have been pretty annoying. Okay, Ignoble Hierarch. Will you stick? You know, if we can win this game too, I think we've got it on the clock. I haven't even been playing for that, but that is a real thing at this moment in time. But we're not going to win the game too because they just keep ripping Planeswalkers off the top. You have got to be kidding me. All right, Big Tef. Sure. At least we have a trophy, but I'm, of course, becoming a little bit more skeptical that we're going to beat this endless parade of Planeswalkers. Collective Brutality. All right. Drawing that makes our Tourach worse. Like, Tourach would have been such a haymaker for so long. We just never drew the 4th land. But I'll still take it. We know it's going to hit. We hope it's going to clear the way to beat Teferi, and that's good enough, right? So Force of Negation. Okay. We still, like, can't get going, really, but we are answering stuff, and they still have, 3 cards. We're going to be 4 plus a Verdict in hand, so Tourach could still be pretty nice if they just kind of let us untap and they don't have permission for it. Do not show me another Planeswalker. Do not dare to show me another Planeswalker. What on earth? A Shark Typhoon. Yeah, even better. Well, at least I think Tourach will resolve unless they're only unknown as counterspell. And then we just have to fade the top decks, I guess, which is easier said than done, obviously. We're probably going to lose to the Sharks again like we did in Game 1. Even though we kept up pretty well with them. But, oh my god, the gas just never ends. Veil of Summer. A fascinating draw, but once again, we're too choked on lands to probably really make use of it. I think we need the Tourach here. Tourach get the get double Supreme Verdict out of their hand. And now we're fading top decks. They can cash into Teferi to bounce Ignoble Hierarch. They won't. That means they drew something to use with Shark Typhoon, naturally, which is rough. We got another Tourach. Alright, that makes me want to attack with this one even more, I guess. We'll see what happens. Lightning Helix on Ignoble Hierarch. Okay, at the beginning of combat, there's nothing really we can do with it. I guess nominally I can float green. But I don't think that does anything for us here. We could give Tourach... Yeah, now it's hexproof. It's not even protection, so... Alright, let's see if they chump here. Yep. Okay, so I think we're not supposed to play around a third Supreme Verdict or a Snapcaster Mage. I think we are gonna just flood the board here. We're doing all this on 3 lands, guys. We've got good tech here against control. And we're doing it against a parade of Planeswalkers off the top. Tef, Bounce, and Hexy. Dauthi getting pathed, okay. We'll certainly take that land. But that is a bit of a loss. Night's Whisper. Seems pretty good. Just gonna deal with Tef here if we can, or again, force a chump block, I guess is fine. Alright, so Veil of Summer not really live with Teferi around. So that kind of makes me want to put Lurrus into hand or cast Night's Whisper. I think I'm going to cast Night's Whisper. And then just keep being proactive. We'll put Lurrus into hand. Inquisition. Sure, I guess. I don't know if it's going to land. I think it's good enough to start there, though. If Veil of Summer was live, I would be feeling pretty darn good, actually, with all of our cards, right? But the value of Snap and Shark Typhoon is completely insane here. But I guess, what are they going to do? They're going to just force the Inquisition? That's interesting. I wonder what is in their hand that they're protecting. They do get a slightly bigger shark that way. That could be all it really is. Alright, so we can play a Hexdrinker and make it level 4 immediately. Or we can play a Lurrus, buy back a Dauthi Voidwalker. Both seem pretty good. I think we're going to try to play a Lurrus here. Got to keep pressing the issue here for some trades and jump blocks. We could even just extend game 2 long enough to win on the clock. All right, guys, we are untapping with Dauthi Voidwalker, and we can cast it to Fairy Time Raveler, and that's actually pretty hype. That's actually pretty hype. Not gonna lie. But I almost just want to attack to Teferi off the field, because we have Veil of Summer. So if we're going attacking this turn, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think buying back just Bauble or Spellbomb is totally fine here. I think I'll begin by buying back a Spellbomb. I think that's an interesting play. Okay, there's a shark, sure. I'm just going to try to attack Tef here. Shadow OP. Shadow OP. You don't have anything. Lego. Nice. Alright, we're going for the glory with Hexdrinker. We can do so much next turn with Dauthi Voidwalker, it's unreal. Obviously, Hexdrinker is an issue for ending the game. Lurrus is an issue for repeatedly looping whatever we want. Dauthi Voidwalker is an issue by itself. We now also have Veil of Summer. So I think I like just starting off with a good old journey up to level 8 for Hexy here. Are we going to see the team get tapped down? I should have... Yeah, I was going to say I should have bought something back first with Lurrus. That was actually dumb. But because they're now targeting something, we've got Veil here, which is pretty hype. They don't get to draw. We do get to go to level 8. They didn't tap us down. Let's go. That was sweet. So we're now just holding up Cryptic Command with Dauthi Voidwalker, which is also pretty cool. So I think just like buying back Spellbomb's fine. Ooh, this is very skill testing for me, my friends. I hope I'm doing okay. Be gonna try to race us, which is all they can really do at this point, I think. Sharks are pretty darn good at that, not gonna lie. Lightning Helixing Lurrus. Yikes. Sure. Okay, so are we gonna Cryptic Command this? I don't know, but I think I'm going to. Don't know if we're supposed to, but I think I'm going to. Counter target spell. Gonna bounce something, I guess. Counter bounce a big shark. And then Spellbomb OP on their end step, even though maybe we don't even need to do that. There's so much to think about here, my friends. Thoughtseize. Sure, I'll use it. Technically comes with a bit of a risk, but it does just also clear the way. Alright, OP's dead next turn to the Collective Brutality. Sending everything in. I'm gonna actually take a block here just to be perfectly sure. They could have drawn Supreme Verdict, which would be completely insane. But that's why we've got all these Hexies in the back pocket, right? Alright, I think we just untap and try to win with a Cobrew. Inquisition to clear the way. Feels good, man. Okay, Force of Negation, making a shark, but the other card in their hands will land, I believe. That is the match, my friends, and that was about as intense as it gets. Not only was it classic rock versus control, which is always a slugfest unless one deck really doesn't function, we had the additional dimension of Dauthi Voidwalker making things utterly insane. I don't even know what to say about this one. Modern Horizons 2 has made Modern pretty wild and crazy, but I like a lot of what I see about it. I mean, Dauthi Voidwalker clearly has to go on the thumbnail on the basis of this performance alone, giving us so much value. The Shadow was insane, the Grave Hate was insane, and using their own cryptic commands and planeswalkers against them also pretty insane. That was an exhausting one, my friends. I hope I piloted it well. Near the end, I started playing a little bit more to the clock, but still trying to play it tight. And yeah, that was quite the display from Dauthi Voidwalker, and also Hexdrinker, obviously, and the rest of the supporting cast, especially our discard effects as well. So very close one, and yeah, well played to OP. And that was round 3. The league is barely over halfway over. I don't know if I can manage to get through this, but we will try. See you for round 4. we're back and the opponent's gonna try to time us out. And I went to go say hi to my family and almost missed this. This is insane. I lost just a few minutes on the clock, whatever it was. As long as we make the opponent take some actions here, I think we should still be ahead. But, like, really? Really? Trying to cheese the win. I see how it is. But, to be fair, I should have just noticed. I'm just gonna go through my turns here, because there shouldn't be any way they can beat us in 1 minute. Maybe we'll make land drops and then cast spells if and when we need to. Maybe that is the way. I'll be taking too many actions for their plan to work here. They need to be aggressively sixing, and then I'll just start aggressively sixing and we're ahead, so I don't know. I guess they were hoping we didn't notice, which we didn't. And then that we wouldn't come back, which we did. Yeah, I went to see the family, make a coffee. Nope, we don't get to do those things. All right, Decay your Shark. Are you conceding? Nope. Okay. I came back and sat down and was like, why am I in a match? What's going on? Why are the timers so low? Okay. Do we have a combo kill that you're about to execute, OP, on our end step with 14 seconds? GG, I miss paper. And hey, you know, you can't blame people for playing to the clock. We were. But I really just assumed they conceded the match because my mind was so overwhelmed with everything else. I say understood, GG's well played. Sorry, OP. For those who do miss paper, this is not a factor. This type of clock is not a factor in paper. Obviously, we'd have a game 3, and look at our flood. I don't think we'd be probably winning this game 3, right? Maybe we sequence a little differently, filter with our Bauble, whatever. All right, now I guess we can go on to round 4. Goodness, that was a mini heart attack moment. Anyway, we're back at it. Now the match is finally over, for real? Yeah, I think it is. Okay, round 4 here incoming. Here we go. All right, we will keep this one on the play. For sure, it looks like a pretty nice one to me. I think in the blind we go get Swamp off of Verdant Catacombs here. And I also think we do lead on Inquisition just because we don't have any kill spells. If we had like a more balanced hand, I might just lead on Ignoble. And if we had more stuff to ramp aggressively to, like proactively double spelling. But with this exact hand, I think we do the tried and trusted turn 1 Inquisition. And we're against Affinity, which I haven't played against, but they have Bauble, Double Ornithopter, Paradise Mantle, Springleaf Drum, so basically just a lot of ramp. Or is Paradise Mantle, maybe this is more of a combo-oriented deck, I'll be honest. I don't know exactly what Affinity is up to at this moment. I know, obviously, the general idea. So I'm thinking it doesn't make much sense to attack their mana. I think I just take the redraw away with Bauble, but that could definitely prove to be wrong. I don't think that hand particularly cares about getting Inquisitioned. I think that's basically what is going on there. Urza Saga, this card is busted. Busted card. Ornithopter, Mantle, Ornithopter, Saga. Equip. So their hand is Inkmoth Nexus, 1 unknown. Is it even worth Thoughtseizing? I think probably. Thoughtseize play Iggy seems fine. Hopefully it's a payoff. Cranial Plating. Rewarded. Let's go. Alright, so it's kind of their top deck plus whatever they're going to tutor with Urza Saga, plus the construct they get to make off Urza Saga, because this is all very balanced. Note that it's also a land, so we couldn't Inquisition it away. Versus our top deck plus Voidwalker plus Lurrus. So I don't know who's favored here. I really don't. That's a big boy. 5/5 construct. Ooh, opponent ripped Galvanic Blast. Got it. We have a Grim Flayer who is not quite delirious yet. So that's kind of a bad draw, to be honest, at the moment. I wonder what they'll get here. They're going to make 2 constructs. That's pretty rough. I think I'm putting Lurrus into hand, but none of our lines seem like winning lines. We don't have any kill spells against the Affinity deck. That's obviously a problem. They dumped out their whole hand, besides admittedly Cranial Plating, which they ripped off the top, and we ripped away with Thoughtseize. These are problems. These are big, big problems. I guess we just kind of want to draw a Pulse for the constructs and hope to grind them out from there. These constructs are 7/7s. We have land, instant, artifact, sorcery, creature in the bin. Our ghost would be 5/6, not big enough to tangle. Unearth. So we can play Lurrus, buy back an Iggy, chump block with both, gain some life. Next turn we can unearth Lurrus, play some more spells. I guess that's the thing to try here. Welding Jar was a good draw for them, obviously preventing the Maelstrom Pulse from being any good. So we're pretty dead. But, yeah, kind of a nut draw from Affinity here. We have a good amount to do in the sideboard, and we have a good amount to do main deck. We just little bit of wrong half. It's like a very decent hand in the blind, but not able to keep up after they vomit their hand out like they did, and they'll just rip another Cranial Plating off the top. I guess that'll probably do us in here. Okay. Technically not dead. We do a little chump blocking. There's an Assassin's Trophy, okay. We still can't double spell, though. I guess we're just not going to show him any more info. Opponent says, oops. Okay. It was good enough. It was good enough, OP, fear not. So, EE, Force of Vigor, Seal of Primordium, all seem good. And then there's cards like Brutality and Sudden Edict that can line up if you're already otherwise doing decent stuff. There's also Damping Sphere to slow them down. These are cards that are more fringe, if you ask me. You could also play the Reign of Tears game against their Yawgmoth Nexuses and against their low land count in general. It also hits Urza Saga. And you can play it turn 2 with Iggy. I don't think I'd really consider it if we couldn't T2 it, but because we can on the play, maybe we should have it. I think I'm going to cut Night's Whisper and Thoughtseizes pretty easily, and Tourach Dread Cantor. So even though a lot of this stuff is relatively marginal, Nihil Spellbomb, I guess I can cut to. I'm assuming they're not using the graveyard. I don't know for sure. We can actually play most of these cards here. So what if we just side in all of our medium sideboard options and figure out 2 cards to cut? Unearth, possibly a good cut. Dauthi Voidwalker. Dauthi Voidwalker is pretty weak, actually. So I guess we're going to try to cheese him with a couple Reigns of Tears. I guess I almost forgot about Break the Ice. That should be in if Reign of Tears is in, and why not play all three? So definitely Break the Ice as well if we're on this plan. If we just cut another Dauthi Voidwalker, which I think is a weak card here, we have 4, 5, 6, 7. We have 7 non-hierarch threats, and then the hierarchs as well. So we have a relatively slow clock, but I guess that's the game we're trying to play. Yeah, I guess every single possible kill spell makes sense to me. Including land kill spells, right? Alright, let's go. It's a 1-lander, and the land is green, but we do have Iggy to rescue us here. We also have Force of Vigor. It's a really good hand overall. I think I'm supposed to keep this one, acknowledging that things could go a few different types of ways here. But, like, if the opponent keeps a slow value hand, then if we draw black land off the top, we can blow up their T1 land and start playing that type of game. Springleaf Drum. All right. Paradise Mantle. Ornithopter. Suiting up the... Oh no, playing a Signal Pest. Got it. Okay, so I'm going to see what we draw here before I decide what to do with Force of Vigor, I guess. Or am I? Yeah, I think we can untap and see what to do about Force. Do it on their turn. Okay. Fatal Push. So we can EE on 0, 2 for 1 them, and then also force them on their turn, and then we have a Fatal Push in Inquisition, a Reign of Tears in the back pocket, because we'll have to use the pitch the Pulse to force. I hope that's good enough. I really wish we just drew a second land, but... I think we're going to go for that. I think we're supposed to crack it now, although there are some incentives to hold it up. But this way we don't let them tap Ornithopter for mana. So we can force on their upkeep. I think I'd rather kind of let them play out a little bit. Alright, they're not doing anything. I don't think we need to force. Urborg, nice draw. Okay. So I think we're just going to blow up a land, hold up Force of Vigor, although we could certainly Inquisition as well. Yeah, we're probably just supposed to go ahead and blow up Urza Saga here. Imagine that on T2. And then a potentially bigger EE, right? But we were not so fortunate. Another option here, of course, would have been to just like try to hit the Yawgmoth Nexus and then try to beat the constructs and the tutor and really land through them when Urza Saga goes away. This is my first time ever playing against Affinity post MH2 and first time seeing it in action, right? So it's like... I certainly understand either way here. So are we supposed to Force of Vigor, the Signal Pest, and the Springleaf Drum on the upkeep? I think I'm going to, because it makes our Inquisition better, and again, because we have Push in the back pocket, Lurrus in the back pocket to recur EE as well, potentially. So I'm going to make a really aggressive play here. And I don't know if it should be Signal Pest or maybe just Construct that we hit, actually. We're at least doing a lot of really powerful things. I don't know if it will get us there. But I'm hoping that they're stuck on one land and that they kind of... Ooh, do they have a Galv Blast for Iggy? That could complicate things. That actually could punish us for this play. If we never draw the third land. But, like, we're both in potential land screw territory, right? So it's not like we're any more vulnerable to that than they are. In fact, I guess it's probably the opposite. Alright, we draw another Fatal Push. We'll take that. But let's IOK. We get Arcbound Ravager. And let's take a look at this new card, Thought Monitor. Affinity for artifacts, so right now it costs 5 to play. We're not particularly close to that. I guess we can afford to save the Fatal Push. So I think our play's been rewarded. Let me just make sure. So it's going to cost... Yeah, sure. I guess they're just getting the damage in here, and that's just letting us push the land, which is awesome. I was just making sure I wasn't missing something about the casting potential there for Thought Monitor. That was a blowout. We draw another Fatal Push. Cool, so we're kind of stuck because we lost Iggy with no ability to turn the corner thanks to Lurrus. But a couple pushes is not a bad place to be. An opponent's going to risk it again. Okay, OP. We'll keep pushing your Nexus. That seems awesome. Not going to lie. I'm not saying it's wrong for them to do it. But I am saying that I'm going to push it. Alright. Let's go third land. Nope, but it is a Hexdrinker. It lets us be proactive here, and that's what we're going to do. OP keeps drawing lands, though. They are getting rewarded for what's going on. Not gonna lie. We've got Assassin's Trophy. I wonder if we should basic check them at some point. But probably not at this exact point. Let's just put a couple levels on and get a clock going here. 5-turn clock. Seems okay under these circumstances. I don't plan to put really any other levels on Hexy. Oh my goodness, Urza's Saga. I really didn't think they'd draw another land off the top. Kind of playing around that. Not happening. How many Welding Jar. Okay. Alright, it's been like 4 lands in a row off the top. I guess I could have pushed Signal Pest to prevent that, but really... Now they get to tutor with this, and they get to make constructs, and it's all pretty rough. Okay. Maybe we should have pushed the Signal Pest, I don't really know. We could still be doing okay here. I think I'm supposed to trophy Urza's Saga. And we're holding up Fatal Push here, even though it could punish us again. I think now we hold it for just a generally more opportune target. Okay, another Signal Pest. Got it. I'll take this hit. Lurrus into hand. Memnite, sure. Alright, I think we're going to push one of these pests now just to use mana more than anything else. Because obviously we've got Lurrus loops incoming. We draw the welding jar, which is fine. We've got Iggy. Cool. So I guess Lurrus buyback EE for 0, which only hits Memnite, but is still probably good enough to do here, especially because we have 1-drops. I might as well get the Exalted in here. Do we even buy back EE, or do we actually just leave it? Because we'll have to crack it next turn and then buy it back. And we might not have the mana to do everything, so I think we just don't do anything with Lurrus, strangely enough. Still a free 8th card, still lifelinks. We're a little punished because we could have killed that Ornithopter with it, but obviously OP on the back foot here. But they're going to concede because they're too far behind. Okay, good enough. A little bit of a strange game. It went to turn 10, but we had a lot of we found a lot of good action, a lot of decent action, and we will take that for sure. Having seen a little bit more of their deck, I don't think we saw any sideboard cards per se. I'm feeling pretty good about the land destruction plan. I think even on the draw it looked really good there, even though they kind of drew out of it. I don't know if I should have Damping Sphere on the draw. That's like the one thing that looks worse on the draw by far. We could bring back like a Dauthi Voidwalker just for a clock, a Night's Whisper just to gas out, or I don't think I'm going to play a Thoughtseize, or an Unearth to buy back a Galv Blast victim, or to cycle away. I think I actually might like Unearth the most here. I could see a one of Night's Whisper is totally fine, though. But I think we're running it like this. We've got Iggy, Decay, Pulse, Bauble to redraw. Opponent will mulligan, and we've got 3 lands, including the Urborg Peatland combo, allowing Painless Black at least. That's a keeper. I'm certainly not cavalier about what they could do to us here, right? They could have nutty nut draws, but here on the draw, I just like having like the turn 1 dork into some kill spells. It seems good. Darkbore Pathway. That's not even the worst, right? Because it does allow us to have some painless green starting T1. Ooh, Iggy getting bolted every time. You hate to see it. Blasted. Bolted, blasted, whatever. Okay, that's enough lands. We got 5 lands. We don't need any more. I can promise you that. Okay, there's the drum. Into Arcbound Ravager. Probably supposed to decay that on site, and we draw another land. Just stop. Just stop with the lands. Oh, this is a way we could lose, because the opponent's empty-handed, right? But, like, if we just flood, they can get right back in. Anyway. Yeah, we're just going to decay. And they're going to eat up some stuff, and it's going to be a top deck war. How good would Force of Vigor be after they, like, go all in on this, right? You know, it's only a 2-4. Hopefully we can beat a 2-4. They top deck Cranial Plating, though. That's scary. We have the obvious answer in Pulse, but... Okay, there's a Fatal Push. You know what, I think I might Pulse the Plating right now, because it's just mana efficient, and next turn we put Lurrus into hand and we Fatal Push. Yeah, I think that's fine. Alright, we gotta be able to out-top deck Affinity, right? Well, we'll find out. Or should we filter our own draw with Bauble? I think we should filter our own draw here. So we see Blooming Marsh on top. We are rewarded for getting that out of there. And that's what we'll do. The Lurrus Bauble loop is incoming. Inquisition, a pretty bad draw here. OP with a Inkmoth, excuse me, Nexus. I think we hold the push and we take the hit for 2 here. Field of Ruin rewards that. I think we conceal the field, though. Just play out a Peatland. Grab a Bauble. Use it now. They're about to draw a Bauble. Got it. We draw Swamp. You hate to see it. But our Bauble every turn is better than their Bauble one time, right? And if they for some reason main phase it, it could turn on our Inquisition. Alright, they're going for the Yawgmoth Nexus attack here. I think we're going to push it even though we have Field of Ruin. You know, I actually don't think we are. I actually don't think we are. I think we're going to take the 1 Infect. I think we're just going to Fatal Push the Ornithopter so we can start racing with Lurrus. Okay, OP knows about our Swamp. Come on, deck. You can do better than this, deck. I think I'm going to field them first, just to thin, basically. Oh, we don't have a land. I didn't even pay attention. My bad, guys. That makes that a little worse, but admittedly probably doesn't matter too much because we're drawing all the lands anyway. That just makes our flood even more obscene, though, you do have to say. Alright, they're about to draw Mystic Forge off the top. Okay. That is horrifying. That is utterly and absolutely horrifying. How are we getting out top deck by Affinity in general, much less with an active Lurrus, right? Alright, Ignoble is not very exciting, but at least we can play it. And it does help the clock and the stabilization with our life total. But OP about to rip a Mystic Forge +1. a Mystic Forge plus Urza Saga. I have to imagine those are the two best top decks they could have had. Our Field of Ruin shuffled them perfectly. Oh my goodness. Okay. Hexdrinker. Still might be able to steal this game with Hexy plus Lurrus beats, I guess. Dauthi Voidwalker is a card too, with evasion. I guess we might as well look at what's on top due to that Mystic Forge. Another Urza Saga. Okay. I think it's probably just Hexdrinker time. I mean, it's definitely Hexdrinker time, but I think it might be... Well, we can still put it to level 3 and play a Dauthi Voidwalker. I guess that's good. So, you know, when we put Hexy to level 8 next turn, we just need to not die over 2 turns, which we definitely could to the Saga, to the Mystic Forge. I don't know what they have to tutor with Urza Saga. Do they have, like, an EE to blow up our Hexy? I don't know. Another land off the top for us. Our top decks are making it about as hard as possible, right, for us to really close out a game where we're vastly ahead here. They're exiling Glimmer Void. They're playing another Saga. Give us something hot, deck. Inquisition. We're just doing nothing. We're just doing nothing with our draws. Okay. Okay, nobody panic. Nobody panic, it's fine. So... yeah, I think we're supposed to just keep getting baubles here. So I'll do that. Check out their top deck, I guess. Another land. We're getting pretty lucky with that, admittedly. Alright, so we're swinging for 9. This way seems good. OP now has to somehow beat a level 8 Hexdrinker and a 3/2 Shadow next turn from 2 life. And even if they do, I guess Lurrus is lethal. They can obviously do a ton with Mystic Forge, but they also can't afford the life so much. We're holding up Ignoble Hierarch in case we draw Fatal Push, but obviously it's another Blooming Marsh off the top here. So, that continues. Let's see what they can get off Saga. That's the big question mark here. One of the big question marks. Again, I hope that they, like, just... even if they can get something to stay alive here, they can't beat Dauthi Voidwalker. Ginger Brute to gain life. Okay. I guess I get it. More looks with Forge. And that's the game. Okay, I think that, again, our flood off the top made it about as hard as it could possibly be, but the key to this deck is Hexdrinker in so many ways, and in the way of turning flood into gold is probably the most impactful and the most important. So we saw even a good supplementary attacking role here for Dauthi Voidwalker, which I think has been underrated by the community as a whole. We saw Lurrus go insane with the Baubles. We saw the Baubles find us nothing but lands and Inquisitions, but it was still good enough with a little bit of removal. Not a lot, a little bit, good enough, right? That one was hairy, but that was another really fun match. So I took a long time on the clock. Sorry about that. Sorry to you, sorry to the viewer, sorry to OP. Lots of decisions, but at the end of the day, also, we should acknowledge a little newness, a little noobishness against Affinity and with the new tech, but we've cashed the league, my friends, despite some wild and crazy variants, and hey, we still got round 5 to go. Let's go close out strong, if we can. Alright, it's a Lurrus mirror. We've got the, the 5th one-lander of the league. This one unkeepable because it's a Field to Ruin. Field has been good, but also showing up a lot in opening hands where it's awkward. I think this is a keep on the play if we had a Blooming Marsh, but we don't, so it goes back. Alright, this hand's really, really underwhelming. If it's like a Jund Shadow deck or something, they're probably gonna... I mean, against most decks it's underwhelming because trophies are worst early game removal, and, you know, if we were suspicious maybe of Tron, then we'd be like, well, this could be good, but it's a Lurrus deck, right? Anyway, we will still keep it, though. And in case it is Jund Shadow, I think I might bottom the Catacombs here to keep our life total at 20. Night's Whisper will take us down, but again, that might be a premier discard target for the opponent. Especially because they mulligan, they might not want us to pull ahead on cards, so we shall see how it all goes down, my friends. I'm happy to be on the play, though, I think. More chances of resolving Whisper and taking it from there. OP's got the discard for us, though, I suspect. Yeah, looks like it is good old Jund Shadow. It's Ragavan! Oh, that's a must-kill. And, ooh, we're gonna have to trophy him. We're gonna have to trophy Ragavan. Pretty sure. I mean, obviously that's horrid. But him ramping and taking our cards and connecting for 2 is also horrid. So let's pass the turn and trophy your 1-drop. No, 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 not good. Oh, Assassin's Trophy. You have such relevant downsides. You know, if those were both decays, I'd be feeling great about our hand, right? Are we just going to see Lurrus into hand? No, it's Dauthi Voidwalker into Seal of Fire. Okay. The Dauthi Mirror. So we have drawn Thoughtseize, which is really interesting. I think that makes me definitely want to Inquisition here. I mean, if we're going to trophy Dauthi, I guess we do that first, though. Because then they can't play another Dauthi and eventually have more things to do against us, including Inquisition or Lurrus, like, down the road when we put it into hand. So yeah, here's another basic land, OP. You are welcome. And I don't mind the draw Thoughtseize, because obviously we're giving them all the fuel in the world for Lurrus, and then once they put it into hand, at least we can feasibly answer it. Fatal Push, Scourge of the Skyclaves, easy take of the threat there. Right? Or is it? Because we actually don't... It's tough, because we're going to lose life once we cast a spell. But right now, Scourge is rotting in hand. And right now, their Fatal Push is rotting in hand, so I still think we take the Scourge, but specifically because we're, like, giving them Lurrus fuel, this is risky. because if they draw a discard spell for turn and they take our Thoughtseize, then put Lurrus into hand, we're in trouble. But they don't draw discards, so it's all good. I guess we lead on Thoughtseize here to make sure that we want to... Let's just see what we want to do. We might put Lurrus into hand rather than cast Night's Whisper. Problem is we have nothing to buy back, so maybe it is Whisper. Even though Lurrus is more mana efficient. Their hand is Blood Crypt Fatal Push. Our hand is Tourach Fatal Push. Alright. Not the greatest, not the worst, I guess. And we're the ones with the Lurrus waiting in the wings, so I guess we're ahead. OP is drawn and dashed in a Ragavan, which is an incredible top deck, but we have the incredible answer of Fatal Push. For free, thanks to Urborg. Urborg OP. Alright, we are keeping up with a good progression. You'll love to see it. Alright, so if we kick Tourach, they are priced into using the Seal of Fire to turn on Revolt for Fatal Push, which I guess is pretty good, and then we get to follow up with Lurrus next turn. I guess we're going to do it. I don't exactly know how good it is, but I want to do it. Oh, I'm sorry. I was... No, they don't even need that. Right. Yep. I realized that a little before it happened. I still think that's a fine play. You know, Tourach 2-for-1s them. That's fine. The second is a low-impact land, but still. And they draw another low-impact land off the top. You'll love to see it. Field of Ruin could basic check them out of the game potentially at some point. Unfortunately, we also draw low-impact nothing. So I'm going to begin by cracking Peatland here. Hoping to draw... a land. Not it. Alright, let's put Lurrus into hand and hope that at some point we draw something worth buying back. If not, at least then next turn we can buy back a Tourach to get a 2-1 on the field. But it's definitely some pretty poor top decking from us, and from OP, I guess. Catacombs cracking to thin is appealing, but statistically not that significant, so I guess we don't. Ignoble Hierarch, definitely a pretty weak one. I think I'm going to risk them finding discard, and I'm just going to play Iggy. I should Inquisition. I should have Inquisition before I even played that card. I don't know what I was thinking there. Alright. Okay. Yeah, that was just kind of bad sequencing, so we should have an Ignoble Hierarch on the field. I kind of changed what I was doing midstream, but still awful. No excuse for that. No excuse to throw Iggy under the bus like that. Come on. I don't know if they can fetch anything with this swamp. But I think I'm going to draw step. Basic check them. Not that this matters almost at all. But we'll do it anyway. Alright, they only play 2 basics. Good to know. And yeah, they've already lost 2 Blood Crypts, so they're on 4 lands, basically. Hey, they have a Bauble. I want one of those. Give me a Bauble so I can loop it, please, deck. Another Tourach. Okay, well. I think Ignoble Hierarch is better than Tourach here, actually. Or do we just keep holding the Lurrus and do we, like, just get a Tourach down? Or do we do nothing? I think doing nothing is actually kind of okay. I'm going to do nothing. It's a bold move. It's not what I'm used to doing, you know, in these types of situations. I value just kind of developing in general, but, like, if they draw more removal spells off of this Bauble, I don't think they're going to like their results off fetching, yeah. Then Tourach could become relevant again. Obviously, we're just afraid of discard, but ultimately Lurrus has such bad buyback targets in this situation that it'd still be bad to lose it, but whatever. Oh, no Kroxa one time. No Kroxa ever, actually. This might be a Kroxa. It's a Ragavan. But they're not dashing it in this time. And it's a Scourge. Oh my god. Okay. Some really good top decks from OP. And now we're just going to fetch to thin. Alright, well, we're rewarded for them not dashing Ragavan in, but we're still in a lot of trouble. Or are we, because we top deck Hexy. So I think maybe 1, 1, 2, 3. Like, we can play Hexy and force them to crack Seal of Fire on it, basically, in response to the 3rd level. But then we're just getting hit by Ragavan. So I think we actually have to play Tourach and Hexdrinker, so we have something left to block Ragavan. And, I mean, opponent knows about the Lurrus in our hand, so there's no reason not to level up Hexdrinker, I guess. So we're going to get smashed by Scourge. If the opponent draws a kill spell, we're going to get smashed by Ragavan and probably lose. If they brick, who knows? Because the Lurrus engine is pretty real. And I do think they kind of have to kill the Hexdrinker, though, with the Seal of Fire and not just save it for Lurrus. So they're going to ship in with both. We're going to trade Tourach for Raggy. We're going to take the 5. TBR. Seal of Fire. Oh my goodness, the top decked lethal. Okay, well, I don't think we're supposed to play around that. I don't think we had any good way to play around that. That was insane. EE, Veil of Summer, Nihil Spellbomb, Night's Whisper potentially, and Sudden Edict for sure. These are the cards I am interested in. I think I'm going to cut 3 Thoughtseize. And probably 1 Tourach, maybe both. Everything else seems fine. So I could see moving away from an Ignoble Hierarch here. The dorks are pretty bad in this matchup, I guess. It's either that or another Tourach. Maybe we'll cut a dork on the play, leave 1 Tourach in on the play, I guess. Turn 3 him is still pretty good. Alright. Well, a fun matchup to close things out. I would have loved to win game 1, and then I'd feel relatively favored to win one of the post-side games. Now I don't know, especially with the Ragavan build. I don't know who's favored here. Ragavan could have won the game at many points there, and we just managed to stay ahead of him, but then TBR getting us. Anyway, we will keep a very decent hand, but one with no threat, which I guess is fine on the whole. But also with no 3rd land, we do have a bit of a fail rate of not hitting the 3rd land, being too reactive. So they've got I think I'm just going to take... Well... Maybe we just take the K command play for the long game. I was thinking about taking their Inquisition, but that's because I kind of thought I had a second discard spell in my hand. Alright, we'll take the K command play for the long game. That's a pretty good hand from the opponent, though. Thankfully, our hand is relatively Inquisition-proof. We just want to draw the third land to give us the most options here. Notably, they did not Bauble us before resolving Inquisition. I wonder if that means they're going to hold Bauble to filter with their Polluted Delta next turn, or if they just missed a... I think they just missed a little info. That's alright. Maybe they're playing around our discard as well, if we find one off the top. But we don't. We find Dauthi Voidwalker, which is sadly uncastable. You know, otherwise a fine one, I guess. But I guess we're just going to get Kroxid here. And I guess without a third land in sight, we're supposed to either pitch Pulse or just that Voidwalker. I think maybe I'm going to pitch Voidwalker and just keep all of the answers, but I'd love to draw the third land or a Nihil Spellbomb. We draw the third land. Alright, putting Lurrus into hand. Good. Now we're proactive. Now we're doing some proactive things. Not another Kroxa. Come on. Come on. Okay. I guess now we can pitch the Pulse. Now we really need to find a Spellbomb. Or another, I mean, not even another Voidwalker. It really does kind of have to be Spellbomb, I think. Give us that Spellbomb, please. Spellbomb cantripping into a land? No. Ooh. And no Bauble to buy back either. Okay, this is just kind of rough, guys. I think we're just getting a little unlucky here with how our hand's lining up. We've got a lot of good cards, but the Kroxas are breaking this mirror in absolute half. I think they're just going to look for the fourth land. And they'll just be X for wanting us a bunch with Kroxa. It doesn't mean we can't ever beat it, but it's a real good way to fall behind. They don't shuffle away yet, so have they just drawn the fourth land, natty? Or have they found something more desirable? They have. Well, you do hate to see it. We're just going to pitch EE here, because it's buybackable. And also the clunkiest way to answer Kroxa, basically. We gotta kind of hang on to this Lurrus in the hopes that it's good at some point. And I'm just gonna be mana efficient with a Decay here. Even though Decay takes care of Lurrus, that's not like our immediate problem. Veil of Summer. Alright, well, that's another card that Kroxa just gets around really well. But I really hope that they have some other, like, they don't get Kroxa back anytime soon. Dauthi Voidwalker, sure. And a land, are we putting Lurrus into hand? We are. Okay. We're pushing. Discard off the top. Dauthi Voidwalker. Okay, well. That feels bad, but at least we can beat their Fatal Push. Maybe they go for that rather than Lurrus buying back Dauthi. That would be good for us. Give us a chance. They just have red removal. Oh my god. Okay, they got everything. Everything. This would have been a really good game if it wasn't for Kroxa just breaking the mirror, right? Now we gotta find a top deck to Lurrus right away. Ignoble Hierarch. Not it. We can't even hold up Veil of Summer this way. Brutal. Yeah, we're pretty much roundly defeated here. We play Lurrus, it'll die to the push. We play Ignoble Hierarch, it's just not as good, but I think we kind of have to play Iggy here. Maybe the opponent will kind of let it live because they don't want to turn on our potential fatal push by killing our relatively meaningless dork here. Buy back a Dauthi. I have a Scourge too. Yup. Verdant Catacombs. This is too late. We don't even need the fourth land anymore. That's just too late to be great. I mean, we're representing Veil of Summer pretty obviously if we play Lurrus and don't buy anything back, but I think we have to. Just been a lot of things going against us in this this match. We're getting Lurrus without Bauble, basically, is our big problem. And they're just having red bolts. Red bolts, as though there's any other bolt. They're just having red bolts off the top. All right, I think they got us. So good games well played to the opponent. They had absolutely everything. And hey, Jund Shadow's a cool deck. Good to still see it thriving in Modern. So we do fail to capitalize on the 3-1, and we fall to a 3-2. But given some of the variance in matchups, I will take it. I think that is all right. And a cool deck to lose to. GG's OP. All right, my friends, so that was a pretty hard-earned and lengthy 3-2. I had a lot of fun, though. Like, I at times was feeling frustrated by variance and by matchups. I just wanted one time to fade prowess. Like, I'll take anything else that you want to throw at me, even bad matchups, but, like, I wanted to not specifically get punished for playing the new tech and cutting the fat, old green tech, right? And we did play prowess. We got smoked pretty hard. And maybe that's useful for viewers, right? And useful for testing in general, because that is a big downfall of moving away from Tarmogoyf and also from Scavenging Ooze. You could split the difference, though. Play Dauthi Voidwalker in the Skooz role and still have a few Goyfs in here, which is something that we did talk about doing. And the Goyfs would have helped us against prowess. That said, I think maybe the loss of Goyf is overstated or overestimated by people outside of Red Deck wins matchups. I've played 9 other BGX matches, the other 4 here and the 5 with Jund, with Goyfless builds. I haven't missed it in any of the other ones. Really, truly have not. And Dauthi Voidwalker is a heck of a card. Now, maybe Tourach is not quite as strong, but we also haven't had the perfect scenarios for Tourach. We're envisioning him putting in work against big mana, combo, control, and also good on-the-play progressions against mid-range opponents. We just haven't had that really line up so much for us. He's nevertheless been okay. That said, the first thing I'll say is that if you want to play a couple Tarmogoyfs, maybe you could play 3 Goyf. You know, you could get 2... You could go down to 1 Tourach and play the 2 Goyfs over the 2 Flayers. You could maybe pair down on interaction and have a higher threat count. I think either one is acceptable, right? Because we're on 15 creatures. The Hierarchs are kind of half of a creature. Maybe this would be 17 threats and that'd be a sweet spot. I don't know. I wanted to try it with only 15 here, and it was pretty good. Like, we did admittedly find ourselves trying to draw a threat 1 or 2 times, but overall, that was not really what was lacking, I don't think. I think our issues were more to do with generically stumbling. We took more mulligans than I'm comfortable taking with Rock. We got stuck on lands or flooded more than I'm comfortable on Rock doing and expecting a great result. You know what I mean? Like, Rock is a deck without as much consistency as other decks, without much selection, although we have a little more these days with this build in particular, and also without as heavy of a top end, like card for card, as other mid-range decks, right? So we do get more punished for the flooding and for the screw, But the big exception to getting punished for flooding is if you can stick a Hexy, and over this league, as in so many other leagues, that was what actually got us over the line. And that, my friends, is another reason I am a little bit... I think there's more room than most people think to shave Goyfs, or indeed go Goyfless, and it is on the strength of Hexdrinker, which is a card that mostly has extremely positive synergies with Ignoble Hierarch, as well as with the rest of this build. So, this was a fun one, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Chris, my friend, this was for you. Truly hope you enjoyed it as well. And ultimately, we lose to Prowess, which I, again, needed to fade with this deck. We didn't. And you won't fade it all the time. It's still a very popular deck. So, you know, be warned before you register a Goyfless rock list that Prowess is a predator for you now, whereas before it was probably a moderately favored matchup if you had sufficient tech in the side, which I think most of us usually do. Also, the Jund Shadow matchup I think is still good here. I don't think I'm missing Goyf so much there, although it's a good card in the matchup. Frankly, Tourach is okay in the matchup, and Dauthi Voidwalker I think good in the matchup, but the problem we faced in round 2 was the opponent going Kroxa mode early, or game 2 rather, going Kroxa mode early, our stuff just not lining up, us just stumbling, and game 1 was even. It could have been anybody's game. I think they out-top decked us a little bit, especially with that TBR, which could have been a 2-for-1 in our favor under other circumstances. As it was, it just won them the game on the spot, so that was a bit of a rough way to lose. However, I'm not saying that the other ones, the other matches weren't close either. They could have broken anybody's way as well. We squeak over the line against Control. I hilariously almost just don't come back for game 3 because I thought the match was over. We squeak over the line round 1 against Through the Breach, and we also kind of squeak over the line against Affinity, even though we were in such a commanding position because we just kept finding only lands or Inquisitions off of the Bauble Lurrus loop. So, my friends, some things never change, right? We cut the Goyfs, we cut the Scoozes, we play all the hot new Modern Horizons 2 tech, and with Rock, sometimes those things are still happening. Nevertheless, remains one of my favorite decks, if not my single favorite deck of all time, and obviously there is more potential to be unlocked here as we refine lists, and as the meta provides us something to sink our teeth into a little bit more, right? We're kind of just shooting from the hip, stabbing in the dark, whatever your preferred analogy is here, and obviously that's going to have some hits and have some misses, but ultimately here I'm satisfied with how the deck played out. Frankly, getting a 3-2 through those matchups, through some of those OP progressions, and also through some of the bad variants we had, and acknowledging that the list that we brought to the table does have gaps in it and does have flaws, I'll take it, right? I was impressed by Ignoble Hierarch still. He was a bad top deck in places, but he was not totally dead, even when he was bad. And when he was good, he was pretty darn great. He also was a removal magnet a significant amount of the time. We saw that actually, strangely enough, a lot against Affinity. But powering out the Rain of Tears, you know, that was a pretty hype moment, stuff like that. Lots of Exalted. Exalted is underrated. I'm confident people underrate Exalted in the context of a black-based mid-range deck. We saw Dauthi Voidwalker, Lurrus of the Dream Den, and above all Hexdrinker really making good use of Exalted. I think we also had an Exalted Flayer in round 1, which was pretty hype as well. The Flayers carrying us over the line in round 1, then just kind of retiring from the rest of the league. That was kind of funny too. We saw them all over in the first couple of games, and then that was it, right? And then that was it. So maybe we missed Tarmogoyf more because we couldn't really draw Flayers for the other 4 rounds, and or if we did, they just weren't the play to make, right? So I do think there's room to add another couple threats and maybe cut from the least desirable of these slots and or go back down to the normal 6 discard spells. Get a couple Goyfs in there if you want, or if you don't want to play with Goyfs, get another couple Flayers in there, or like a 3rd Flayer and a 4th Dauthi Voidwalker. That could be hype too. Anyway, my friends, that is enough. That was a very long league. I hope you enjoyed the ups and downs. Thank you once again, Chris, and thank you as well to the new Patreon supporters that we mentioned at the beginning of the video, the old ones and everybody in between. Appreciate you guys, and let me know what you thought about the list, about the games, and everything else. Let me know how Rock is treating you, if you are indeed bold enough to rock in MH2 Modern. Thank you very much for watching, and I will talk to you next time.